So here is the short wall that is complete. The front wall is complete. And then this tall wall, kind of a challenge, but we're getting there. So we have a couple more pieces to put up on this wall. And then we'll be moving into the bathroom. Oh, and I forgot about the ceiling. So yeah, that's gonna be fun.
We lay out 8 foot. First one would end here, so that's not going to work. So we're needed to line up on a center on a stud. So 92.5 inches is where we need to cut our first piece. Then we've got to measure all of these.
Where the
drill and cut our holes.
Where anything is that isn't just a wooden stud.
Yeah. Well,
I mean the outlets and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these metals don't count.
Right.
These do. Boy. 4 foot.
Your level's hanging off a little on that end. Here's a tip. If you have a 4-foot board and you have a 4-foot level, then you can line it up end to end and make sure that you're meeting up with your lines. Another thing that we learned is definitely use the straight side, not the side with the bubble, because it will catch up your utility knife or hang up your utility knife when you are trying to cut that straight piece. So you want the smooth edge to be the side that you cut.
Put that underneath there.
All right, sheetrock piece number 1. Given the amount of trouble sheet number 1 has given us, this is going to be a really, really long day and a big project. Ryan tried to warn me, but I don't know. I was skeptical, but yeah, this is going to be fun.
Okay, where's our holes?
So Ryan found these handy little outlet markers that you put on the outlets on the wall. And then you push the sheetrock up against it, and these little pegs push holes into the back. So that's what he is currently marking out with the pencil, is where our 6 little holes were left. And then we'll cut those out using a little drywall saw, and that way the sheetrock is open there where the outlets belong. And you can see we did the same thing for these plumbing pipes. We used the spade bit on the right-hand drill and cut those out, but they ended up not being quite lined up right, so he had to make the holes a little bit larger. So yeah,
They'll be behind a cabinet.
They'll be behind the cabinet, as he said, so we're not worried about the aesthetics of it. Hopefully we'll have some nice runs that don't have as much to work around in the sheetrock.
Ah, damn it. Gotta get the feel for this again.
So Ryan has done drywall before. I have not, so I'm allowing him to operate the drill because he informed me that you can't puncture the paper, but because he's a little rusty, I've had that happen. But he just definitely has better odds than I do of not doing that because I'm so bad with the drill. There's really no other way to put it. So yeah, we've muddled through this first piece and realized that our outlets, even though we spaced them according to the notches that bring them out 1/2 inch from the wall to account for the 1/2 inch sheetrock, they are still a little bit too recessed. They work, so we tried it with an outlet, but yeah, it's not ideal. And it's probably a combination of things. We have the insulation that's a little bit puffed out, so that should press in. But then we also have these striker plates, is that what they're called? That keep us from screwing into the wiring that's behind here. So these little plates protect the wiring, and those also add just a tiny bit of a gap or space there. So yeah, it's ideally would be flush here, but we will figure it out as we go. And we have plenty of walls that don't have outlets, so hopefully this wall will be easier. I asked Ryan why we didn't start over here, and he said he wanted to start with the hardest one so that we could get that out of the way. So he certainly succeeded in that objective. It's a lot of meticulous work, a lot of heavy lifting, and then he's doing all the heavy, like the harder cuts and stuff. So he's finishing up putting in the drywall screws on this wall. I did learn one really fun thing that I hadn't thought about, but when you're going to put your drywall screws in, the level upright, of course he's level-headed handyman, so he would know how to teach me this. You put the level upright and then trace your line all along the level to get your stud mark here, and that way he just takes the screws and puts them all along this line, and that way he's hitting a stud with every single screw. So that might be common sense to a lot of people or people who are more experienced in construction, but as a relatively new DIYer, especially at all of these types of projects, I think it's kind of fun to learn something like that. So it's kind of like how it's made. You get to learn like what goes in it behind the scenes. So that's pretty fun. Now I know, I've had so much more respect for construction workers along the way, but yeah, this is a big project. I'll be glad when it's done, which will be 5 years from now. One tiny little portion of wall complete. So this sequence might seem a tad boring, and you're thinking, Christy, this is YouTube, I want the how-to piece of it. Well, first of all, we're not very much of a how-to kind of couple. We just like to do and show you while we're doing it so that you can be inspired to tackle a project yourself. The other reason I wanted to show it is because the reality of DIY work, it's slow and methodical, and professionals who do this kind of stuff every single day probably could have had the house done in the time it took us to do one wall. As Ryan will mention in a minute, there is a tool that you can use that will screw the drywall screws in and sink them right at the correct level. When you don't have that, then we're having to very manually screw each drywall screw in without breaking through the paper. It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to spend hundreds of dollars on a tool that you're likely to use just once.
Penetrated it. Gotta have it dimpled so you can get the filled in the hole, but still not go through, you know?
I did not know that, so.
Because if it sticks out, then it'll leave a lump. So you went just below the surface, but without penetrating or breaking the paper. They make drywall guns that have like a stopper, so you just go and it stops it right where it's supposed to.
Tools of the trade, that might be why.
Okay.
Did I steer you right?
Yes. Okay, if you want to hold that.
Okay. Okay, so we have been putting up drywall for an entire day. I think we started around 9 and it's 6:30 now. We did take a break to run into town and get some stuff at the farm store, including vaccines for the new calf that we need to give her probably tomorrow. We don't have it in us, I don't think, to do anything else tonight. So yeah, a few things I learned today. I've never done drywall before, so you know, this might be old hat to a lot of you, but interesting thing about the sheets, they have tapered sides, so you want to line up the tapered edges. My hand's gonna go the wrong way. The tapered seam, so that then when you put the tape and mud over it, then it creates this nice flat surface, so rather than a really hard corner. So I'm probably not speaking the right terminology for anyone who actually does do sheetrock regularly, but that is what I learned. So we tried to match up as many tapered seams as tapered edges as possible. Try to do as few seams as possible. There comes Ryan to inspect our work. What else did I learn? About penciling in the lines so that you can figure out where the screws go. And that it is just really hot after a full day's work in a tiny house with insulation but no air conditioning, and it's 100 and something outside, so it was fine for a while, but now it's really hot and I'm really thirsty. So we are gonna wrap up today. I already said that, I'm really tired. So you can see behind me, so we've got not quite all of the tall wall done. So we started looking at that one, and it's a little more complex than we thought it would be because of the windows. So we thought, oh, that wall's gonna be a piece of cake because there's no outlets and there's like 2, no big deal, no wiring. Yeah, the windows proved to be quite a challenge just because of the way they needed to line up with the pieces. We did do the short wall, so you can see the short wall is done. It did have a lot of outlets. I showed you some of the tips and tricks that we used for the short wall to go around outlets. And then the very back, or I guess technically it's the front wall, it's the very back wall behind me where Ryan is. That was interesting because of the angles, but not overly challenging. So yeah, got almost 3 walls done, although none of the bathroom is done. So the bathroom will require this moisture barrier sheetrock that we have. It's the green sheetrock. So we have 5 pieces to do the bathroom. But we'll do that last. So we're going to try to finish up the rest of this tall wall. I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or next weekend. But, you know, made really, really good progress today. And we do have the closet wall that's going to be more like a pallet wall. So we won't have to do sheetrock there. We'll just put the wood up. So we have a wood wall. Still lots to do, but this felt really good to get this project started. We had Home Depot deliver the entire amount of sheetrock that we needed. So the $79 was completely worth it, because that way we didn't have to just grab a few pieces at a time, and we could get as much progress made today as possible. So that is it for today. That's a little bit of our sheetrock progress. We'll keep you posted, so be sure and subscribe to Time Pastures so that you don't miss anything happening in our DIY life.